So, all right, let's get right into this because this is a particularly important point. Now, a lot of people are saying the D.O.G.E. under Elon is essentially the group that discovered this. And part of it is, yeah, they're making headlines on it, but the reality is that no, they're not really the ones who discovered it. But there are other things we're going to be talking about in other videos that they did discover, which are spicy, very spicy. Let's take a moment and go back to essentially a month ago when this gentleman, many of you know him, had something to say.
This is a strong indicator of what's wrong. The Social Security Administration, if you ask them, will tell you that there are, according to their records, there are 6.5 million Americans living today in America who are 112 years of age or older.
So old.
They say there's 6.5 million Americans.
There's not.
Who are at least 112 years old or older.
But they're getting a check.
Now, I don't know about you, Mr. President, but I don't know anybody who's 112 years old. And I checked, at any given time, there are about 40 people on an ongoing basis in the world who are fortunate enough to live to be 112. But the data is so screwed up that according to SSA, 6.5 million people are 112 years old.
All right. So the point is with this, the SSA, because remember, they're getting the Treasury data, they're getting the Social Security data, they have all of that stuff now. It's read only right now, but we don't know to what extent they're really doing things behind the scenes. But bottom line is this 6.5 million was made quasi-famous over the past week by D.O.G.E. But Kennedy over here, Congress, was talking about it a month before. Now, are they the ones who really discovered it? No. This has been going on for a very, very, very long time. And you might be thinking, hey, what the hell? Why are there millions of fraudsters getting a Social Security check? What is going on with this? Are they making new immigrants and giving them the check through old people? Are these people who are, potentially trying to vote, but are actually in a box in the ground? Like, what is this? Let me go to PBS, just to give you the specific thing here. March 14th, 2015. Okay, so we're going back, way back. This has been going on a long time. Social Security numbers active for 6.5 million people aged 112. This goes all the way back to 2015. Washington. Americans are getting older, but not this old. Social Security records show that 6.5 million people in the U.S. have reached the ripe old age of 112. In reality, only few could possibly be alive. As of last fall, there were only 42 people known to be that old in the entire world. But Social Security does not have death records for millions of these people, with the oldest born in 1869, according to a report by the agency's Inspector General. So remember, some of these are still open for payment. Where is this money going? Who is collecting this money? Okay. Only 13 of the people are still getting Social Security benefits, although that changes here and there, right? Although I have some issues with that. Right? So I'll read through the article and then I'll tell you some of the problems I have with this. Only 13 of the people are still getting Social Security benefits, the report said, but for others, their Social Security numbers are still active. So a number could be used to report wages, open bank accounts, obtain credit cards, or claim fraudulent tax funds. All right, cool. They went into it. That's good. That is a real problem. And remember, fraud is not just getting the check. It's also all kinds of things. It's similar fault. It's, modifying Social Security numbers. It's, some, group across the border basically creating fake names and fake people to send over that are less likely to be searched, all kinds of stuff. Quote, "That is a real problem," said Ron Johnson, Republican of Wisconsin. "When you have a fake Social Security number, that's what allows you to fraudulently do all kinds of things. Claim things like the earned income tax credit or other tax benefits." So they're still potentially getting paid by submitting that actual Social Security number. Remember, there's 6.5 million of them. Now, that doesn't mean they're doing it with all of them, but, remember, have any of you sat back and wondered how under Biden's administration, they had enough people at the Social Security Administration processing immigrant applications for SSI benefits, but they didn't have enough people to process applications for your disability benefits? Has anybody sat back and started to get curious as to how that all came down? Next thing. Johnson, is chairman of the Senate Committee on Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs, which plans a hearing Monday on problems with death records maintained by the Social Security Administration. The agency said it is working to improve the accuracy of its death records, but it would be costly and time-consuming to update 6.5 million files that were generated decades ago when the agency used paper records, said Sean Brune, a senior advisor to the agency's Deputy Commissioner for Budget, Finance, Quality, and Management. Apparently, they haven't done much with it because last month Kennedy was on it, and now the D.O.G.E. team is all over this thing, which hopefully the D.O.G.E. team can actually fix this, because my big thing is that's 6.5 million people that could potentially cast a vote, which is game-changing for the states in which they can pass that vote in. So, if we want to have a fair and neutral election, right, where it's, everybody's doing what they're supposed to be doing, everybody's voting as they're supposed to be voting as an alive person, we have to fix this for voting purposes, okay? Quote, the records in this review are extremely old, decades old, and unreliable, Brune said. The internal watchdog's report does not document any fraudulent or improper payments to people using these Social Security numbers, but it raises red flags that it could be happening. For example, nearly 67,000 of the Social Security numbers were used to report more than $3 billion in wages, tips, and self-employment income from 2006 to 2011. So let me read that to you again. So if you're sitting there being like, there's no actual fraud going on at the SSA, there is fraud. They've decided not to do anything about it because apparently someone in the system is allowing this to continue. Literally, this article is from 2015. They're now complaining about it in, a month ago with Kennedy and now D.O.G.E. Let me read it to you again real quick because this is important. This is from 2015, so they haven't fixed the problem. For example, nearly 67,000 of the Social Security numbers where the people were 112 years old were used to report more than $3 billion in wages, tips, and self-employment income from 2006 to 2011, according to the report. One Social Security number was used 613 different times. An additional 194 numbers were used at least 50 times each. So if you're wondering how they're doing internal fraud and using the Social Security Administration as a part of that fraud, so let me give you an example of how they could do it. Let's say that there's somebody who's old, right? And then they want somebody to inherit a lot of money, but they don't want to get hit with certain taxes with receiving it, and they want it to go to that older person. They're going to shove it onto that Social Security number, file taxes on it, and then that person passes away at some point, and then boop, that person who's on the will inherits. My point is, this is in-your-face fraud occurring by people who are probably outside and inside the SSA at the highest levels. Because remember, to modify Social Security numbers, it's not the lowest people that can do that. There's a special division just in the SSA who creates Social Security numbers. But for these older individuals, you would think they'd want to tighten this thing up. Well, let me tell you, if you got 6.5 potential 112-year-old voters who get to vote whichever way you want them to, minus the 42 they had back in 2015, that's some powerful stuff right there. That is very, very, very spicy, very, very powerful. Now, with that said, they've got the documented abuse, the documented fraud. People in the country illegally often use fake or stolen Social Security numbers to get jobs and report wages, as do other people who do not want to be found by the government. Sound familiar to immigrants? Thieves use stolen Social Security numbers to claim fraudulent tax refunds. Okay. A side note, what I have heard about is, from people who have been, basically trafficked, the way it works is that, a group will go in and take out a family. They'll take the resources, which are the kids, and use them for what. And basically, they'll take those Social Security numbers and use those to the benefit of receiving whatever they can for the children that they're using and abusing. And that's the sad, really horrible part about it. Okay. The IRS estimated it paid out $5.8 billion in fraudulent tax refunds in 2013 because of identity theft. The head of Justice Department's tax division described how it's done at a recent congressional hearing. Quote, the plan is frighteningly simple. Steal Social Security numbers, file tax returns showing a false refund claim, and then have the refunds electronically deposited or sent to an address where the offender can access the refund checks, said Acting Assistant Attorney General Caroline Cirolo. In some cases, she said, false tax returns are filed using Social Security numbers of deceased taxpayers or others who are not required to file. The Social Security Administration generates a list of dead people to help public agencies and private companies know when Social Security numbers are no longer valid for use. The list is called the Death Master File, or the DMF, which includes the name, social security number, date of birth, and date of death for people who have died. I know a lot of you are like, oh, they always report when a hospital sees somebody passing away and they're always da 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 da. There's fraud everywhere. There's fraud in hospitals. There's fraud all over the place. Okay. Fraud all over the place. So, if you're like, oh, in the coroner's office, da, 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 there's fraud all over the place. Okay. It's all over the place. The list is widely used by employers, financial firms, credit reporting agencies, and security firms. Federal agencies and state and local governments rely on it to police benefit payments. But none of the 6.5 million people cited by the Inspector General's report were on that list. The audit analyzed records as of 2013, looking for people with birth dates before 1901. So remember, this article is from 2015. They haven't fixed it. They're bringing it up again just because the D.O.G.E. and Kennedy's bitching about it, which is why they're showing fraud is not only in existence, it is inside the SSA, and they have actors inside the SSA who are basically looking the other way. Okay. Now, President Franklin D. Roosevelt signed the Social Security Act in 1935, and the first old age monthly benefit check was paid in 1940. You guys have seen the picture I'm sure. Many of the people cited in the Inspector General's report never received benefits, though they were assigned Social Security numbers so spouses and children could receive them, presumably after they died. The agency says it has corrected death information in more than 200,000 records, but fixing the entire list would be costly and time-consuming because Social Security needs proof that a person is dead to add them to the death list, said Brune, the agency official. Brune noted that the Inspector General's report did not verify that any of the 6.5 million people are actually dead. Instead, the report assumed that they are dead because of their advanced age. Here's the thing. This is an amazing opportunity for OIG to get extra funding to go figure this out. Will they do that? No. D.O.G.E. will go in there, will embarrass the SSA, and then the SSA will have to kind of like pick up the pieces of where D.O.G.E. slapped the vase on the floor and said, you fix this, you clean it up. That's what's going to happen. I think. Maybe not. We'll see. Quote, we can't post information to our records based on presumption, Brune said. We post information to our records based on evidence, and in this case, it would be evidence of death certificate. So in other words, if you want to take somebody's social security number, you put them in a barrel and put some, highly acidic material in there, and then that social security number is yours forever. Okay. Quote, some of those records may not even exist, Brune added. Nearly all the social security numbers are from paper records generated before the agency started using electronic records in 1972, Brune said. Many of the records contains errors with multiple birth dates and bits of information about different family members. Final little note here that they have in the article. We did transcribe paper records into the electronic system, and over time that information's been purified, Brune said. Quote, but our focus right now is to make sure our data is accurate and complete as it can be for our current program purpose, said Brune. Right now, we're focused on making sure we're paying beneficiaries properly, and that's how we're investing our resources at this time. Okay, so here's my big problem with this situation, right? The whole, bag of marbles. The problem I have is that statistically, they are arguing that there's millions of records and that they're old and it's ridiculous to go through them all. Look, I don't know about you, but it is not hard to track down a 112-year-old. It's just not that hard. They're not that mobile. They're usually visiting the hospitals and using their Medicare all the time. It's just not that hard to track them down. You could have a team of 100 people figure this out in a relatively short period of time, and then the 6.5 million door would be closed. Look, there's another thing you could do. You could request that all people who are 112 years old call this phone number, right? To give identification, give yada, yada. And then you could check that information, contact them back, and yada, yada. It's just there's so many ways to figure out how many 112-year-olds are actually still alive. In my opinion, this is probably one of the greatest fraudulent things going on inside of the SSA that has existed. There might be some immigration stuff that might be bigger than this, but to me, 6.5 million alive people still capable of getting tax refunds, which they're saying are in fraudulent amounts at the billion level. It's just amazing for me. It is absolutely amazing that these individuals at the SSA are not looking into this. Now, remember, in 2015, the SSA was in a significantly better position than they are now. Now the SSA is at 50-year lows of employment. So they've got fewer employees than they did in 2015. They have 1.12 million person backlog of applicants for disability benefits. They got a problem here. They got a real big problem. They don't have the people to fix this problem. And unless Trump, and I'm hoping Trump gets real smart on this, funds the Social Security Administration better by getting more people in with better talent, to be very fair, I do not see this problem going away. I see this problem basically getting to the point where we're just going to live with 6.5 million people who potentially are filing taxes and not alive, receiving tax refunds that are not alive, receiving stimulus payments that are not alive, onwards and upwards, benefits or votes or whatever. So to me, this is the greatest level of fraud existing inside the Social Security Administration. It's sad because when you sit back and think about it, there's so many people receiving, $600 checks, $900 checks, $1,500 checks, $2,000 checks on my stomach that basically can't afford to live. They can't afford to survive. And that's their Social Security benefits on a monthly basis that they have to live on. Now think of future generations. They're going to be even worse off. They're not going to have the money to have from a pension. They're not going to have the money from, 401ks. They're not going to have money from, IRAs. Your generation, the people who are in your 50s, 60s, 70s right now, that are receiving disability benefits, you are receiving the best benefits that this country will be able to give going forward. You ever think about that? Millennials, Gen Z, none of those people are going to have all the benefits that you do. All the VA people with their 100% P&T or their TDIU check, plus their SSDI check on top of that. So they're getting, somewhere around, usually $6,000 per month. That's not going to exist in the future. That's just not going to exist in the future for younger generations. It's sad. It's really weird because the best that this country can do right now is not good enough. And what it's going to give us in the future is significantly less than what you guys are receiving right now. Extremely scary times. Hopefully the Sovereign Wealth Fund will be used to help the Social Security situation. But, keep in mind, that is way off. That is way, way off. All right. Anyways, I will catch you all a little bit later. I will be doing the next video where I go live and basically answer questions for free. Please remember to keep them to disability benefit questions. With that said, please remember to like and subscribe. I will catch you at the next video in about 10 minutes. Also remember the law firm is closed tomorrow, Friday, but we'll be back open on Monday. I'm going to be going through a medical procedure and I want the staff to focus on buying medical records because there's a couple of hearings upcoming where just the medical facilities are being total snarky butts and they're not giving us the records. I want them to focus on that for a couple of hours. Either way, I will catch you all a little bit later. Some of you are going to call in anyways. That's fine. There will be people there. But bottom line is, we have the next video where we're going to be answering questions. I will catch you there. Also, please head to Google, type in Disability Resolution Law Firm or Disability Resolution Florida. Throw some stars up there. I always appreciate that, and that gets me rolling in the morning. Finally, I go live Mondays and Thursdays. We're playing with those days, though. And if you need a full hour to access my brain, there's a private session contract below in the bio area. I'll catch you in the next video soon, and we'll go from there. Attorney Walter Hnot, thank you so much, and I will see you soon at the next video. Thank you. All right. Bye, everybody. Bye-bye.